Hey everyone, my name is Anna Kruger. I'll be the instructor for today's quick webinar. You guys picked a good topic to join. It's the hot topic of the moment, right? How to get agency agreement. So we're going to navigate today how to set it up so people are comfortable and ready to sign agency agreement with us today. I put in the chat box, if this is our first time in a webinar together, let me know. I recognize some faces already. And I also want to acknowledge anyone that I haven't had in class before. So go ahead and put that in the chat box. Also, if you're able to turn on your camera, I get a lot more energy when I can see your faces. So if you're able to do that, awesome. If not, it's totally okay. There we go. Now I see more people. Thank you. Lucy, I'm so glad you came on. You have a great smile. I'm glad you're here. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead. I'm going to introduce myself real fast, just for context of why I'm teaching on this particular topic. So I am a MAPS coach, and the specialty that I have is group training on lead conversion. So that's exactly what we're doing here today. And the team I come from has always required agency agreement. The stance has always been, we do not work with people, buyer or seller, unless they've signed an agency agreement. We don't go look at houses. We don't do anything really other than an appointment than if they have not signed agency. So that I feel has set me up to help all of us navigate right now of agency agreement. What I want you to know is using the dialogues from that original team that I come from, consistently, what I saw for my own leads was 90% of sellers hired us. Anybody know what industry average is, by the way? For people getting coached, so I would say like the people that are really on top of their game, 80% is average. What I know from working with people, if you're not in coaching, it usually is closer to 40 to 50 signature. So our team is getting 90% of sellers to hire us and 95% of buyers to hire us. So this works. And then as I've taught it through classes partnered with MAPS, I have students report to me that usually within about 2 weeks of using these techniques, they also are achieving 90 to 95% signing ratio. So it's not just an anomaly, one time, one team. It is a pretty consistent result that we see using the dialogues for today. So are you ready to find out how to get agency signatures fairly easily? Okay, cool. It is really actually not that complicated. So I'm excited to bring this to you today. And then what I'll do is I'm going to teach the content, and then towards the end, I'm going to tell you where you can find more training just like this one. And then we're going to open it up for questions, and we'll be out of here by 2:30 Eastern time. Okay. All right. So a couple things that's going to help us is we're going to talk through how to schedule the appointment with urgency. So getting signature actually starts in the setting of the appointment. And then we're going to talk quickly about what does a customer get versus what does a client get, because that actually impacts whether or not they sign. If they understand what they do or don't get, depending on their status with you, that actually really helps with signature. So before I go to the next slide, what I want to emphasize is we are hyper focused right now on the language of getting the signature. But I hope all of you are taking notes, right? Please say yes. You remember 8% of what you hear, which as a speaker is massively discouraging. So please take notes so you actually remember. But what we know is prior to what I'm about to teach you, there's an assumption that you've probably been on the phone with this person anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. You have found their personal motivation, and you have already pre-qualified them. And when I say pre-qualify, you could also say pre-screened. But I've asked those questions that help me know, like, yep, this is a ready and willing person. They're good to go. So we're going to jump in at like minute 8 of the conversation. I've already got their motivation. I've already pre-screened them. And I realize that this is somebody who could actually do something here. So what I'm going to do to set up getting the agency signature is I'm going to let them know exactly what's going to happen when we get together. So here's the dialogue for you. And this exact thing is what is helping people earn 90 to 95% signature, assuming they pre-screened them and got their motivation as well. So you're going to simply say your next step is to meet with me. Or if you're on a team setting for someone else, you might say your next step is to meet with Tabitha, whoever you're setting that up for. But most of you are probably saying your next step is to meet with me, and we're going to do 3 things. We're going to do 3 things. Number 1, we're going to go back over your motivation and pricing. We're going to go back over your motivation and pricing. And I might add in there, I know we've already talked about that a good bit on the phone, Stormy, but when we're in person, I just want to make sure I totally am on the same page with you. And they appreciate that. Nobody's ever mad that you want to really understand them, okay? So number 1, we're going to go back over your motivation and pricing or price. Number 2, we're going to interview each other to make sure we are a mutually good fit. Now let's pause there, and I want some interaction. You can use the chat box. You can unmute yourselves. What do you think the psychology and the reasoning is behind saying we're going to interview each other to make sure it's a mutually good fit?
It's empowering for them.
It's
They might
empowering.
feel a lot of uncertainty.
Yep, you're a little hard to hear, but I think I heard you say it's empowering for them. Anybody else? What's the stance a lot of agents take when the market's shifted? Go ahead.
It's a little bit of a takeaway. It's a little bit of a takeaway.
It's a little bit of a takeaway, right? And it's communicating that I'm not desperate. Now, listen, you might feel desperate, but don't come across desperate, okay? Just don't do it, even if you feel that way. And yeah, I like what you guys are saying in the chat box and what you're saying unmuted. It levels the playing field a bit, and it is a bit of a takeaway. What I can tell you is it raises the value. It's saying I'm not desperate, right? So we're going to interview each other, and only if it's a good fit are we going to work together. And sometimes I'll add to it, like if I'm talking to someone whose home expired off the market with another agent, for number 2, I might say, we're going to interview each other to make sure we're a mutually good fit. And here's the deal, Annette. If I don't think I can sell your house and make you happy in today's market, I'll tell you. I won't take on your house as a listing if I don't think I can get that done for you. So obviously that's adding a lot of words, but can you see how that would be a little bit surprising and probably not what they're used to? So I find that it just adds to your professionalism, and it actually can make them want it more. I used to be a college advisor, and I learned this little tip from my leader. And sometimes we were about to start class and students would just disappear, just like in real estate. We've had that happen, right? And she said, I want you to call the people that are disappearing and say, hey, are you coming to class? If not, I need to take your name off the graduation list. And at first I was like, ooh, this feels a little weird. Let me tell you guys, that got people into action like nothing else, because it was a little bit of a takeaway, right? Like, and you're connecting again their motivation to what the takeaway is. So like to graduate, you have to come to class. So if they dropped off, like, hey, let me know if I need to take your name off the graduation list. I hope not, but just communicate with me. And that worked so well. So this is kind of almost that same idea. So again, it's, hey, your next step is to meet with me, and we're going to do 3 things. Number 1, we're going to go back over your motivation and price. Number 2, we're going to interview each other, make sure we are a mutually good fit. And then here's the magic right here. And then number 3, if everything looks good, we will sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Now I want to point out a few things about number 3. My hope is that just sounded natural. Did it? If you heard that on the phone, would it sound natural? Okay, good. The reality is there's a lot of psychology baked into number 3, and a lot of it is tonality. So when you say, and then number 3, if everything looks good, we will sign paperwork. Can y'all see my hand as I'm moving? We're going to sign paperwork. If you've taken bold before, you've heard that described as an embedded command. So when you go downswing, it's like a subliminal, here's something to do, right? So if I say your next step is to turn on your screens, and I'm just joking. Your next step is to take notes. Your next step is to sign paperwork. It just sends the message of like, this is the next thing that needs to happen. And that actually can remove objections. Can we all just agree, if someone is talking to you in a confident manner, you kind of just believe them, right? I think part of why and I'm saying this with over 20 years of coaching experience, and a lot of that is within the last 10 years has been within the real estate industry. I think the reason a lot of people struggle with agency is just your mindset. The team I come from has always required it. So to me, it's like, yeah, get agency agreement. Like, why would you not? Thankfully, I had a leader that baked that into me. Without that, I would be just like everybody else, right? So that's not a me thing. I just had a leader that drilled that into my head is we do not work with people if they do not sign agency. So to me, this is just like the sky is blue. My name is Anna Kruger. Mega Camp is next week. We only work with people who sign agency agreement. But when that's not your mindset, it can come across timid, like you feel bad asking. Do y'all know what I'm talking about here? I think a lot of times we can be in that space, right? And there's no judgment. I 100% understand it. So I want you to know if you've been experiencing a lot of pushback on agency, and can I have a coaching moment with you? Because this might be a little hard to hear. Okay. But I hope you can feel, even if it's your first time with me, I have a huge love for real estate agents. I love what I get to do, and it's an honor to me. The coaching moment that I want to have with you is if you are experiencing a lot of pushback on agency, it very incredibly likely is your tonality and your body language when you start talking about agency. That is very likely what it is. And part of why I can say that is having coached teams that are struggling with agency, and I'm talking 30 to 40%. They adopt the language on the screen today, and within 2 weeks, many of them are coming back to me saying, we're at 90 to 95%. All they changed was their language and their tonality. So I just want to encourage you, this is not something that's going to take a long time to fix. It can get fixed very quickly as you adjust the way that you say things, okay? So and then number 3, if everything looks good, we will sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? So the other thing I want you to notice there is there really wasn't a pause between next step and any questions. Did you notice that? And again, it's that confidence. We're saying that with confidence, okay? When you do that, it actually can remove questions. If I'm in a room, this actually happened to me recently at the airport. I was waiting to board a plane and the fire alarm went off in the airport. And you're sitting there thinking, this is probably nothing, or maybe it is. And somebody came over the speaker and gave us instruction, and they were very calm, very level-headed. And we just did what they said, because in a little bit of chaos, a voice of reason came on and directed us with what to do. And we didn't object. We just did what they said because they spoke with authority. Right. And so that might be a weird analogy. It just popped in my head as we were talking, but that's the idea here. Okay. Now you're saying this on the phone. Please hear me when I say this. You are not responsible to solve the questions they have on the phone. My specialty is lead conversion. Because of that, I know good lead conversion on the phone has a 5% ratio. So contact to set appointment, 5% is actually pretty good. It jumps up to 80 to 90% when you're in person. So I want you to remember that. If they have an objection about signature on the phone, I'm just writing it down. Think of it kind of like I'm just poking the bear a little bit to see if there's an objection in there. And if there is, and they have a question, I'll say, great, we'll talk about that when we get together. But now I know what objection to practice between right now and when the appointment happens. Does that make sense to everyone? So I don't care if they say, I hate real estate agents and there's no way I'm signing an agency agreement. Great. Thanks for telling me. We will talk about that when we're in person. And then I'm probably going to go call someone and work on practicing this difficult scenario, right? But I just want to emphasize to you, we're not trying to actually fix whatever they say. Would you like a little pro tip of a common thing that we hear? A lot of them, when you are on the phone and you say, and then number 3, if everything looks good, we'll sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? Again, you say it just like that. A common one that I hear is, oh, I'm just not the kind of person who signs the day of. I usually need a minute to think about it. Would you like to have a pro tip for what gets you past that super easily? It works a large portion of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the times. If they say that, I automatically know in the appointment, after I'm all done, I'm going to excuse myself to the car or wherever for about 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm going to say, let's say I'm talking to Stormy. I might say, hey, Stormy, I want to give you a moment to think about this. And while you do, I have a call I need to make, probably 10 minutes. I'm going to go do that. And then I'll come back. And that way, any questions that pop up in your head while I'm gone, we can address them now. Sound good? Great. You come back in and they sign. So the people who are like, I need a minute, I need the night, especially if it's two people, like a partnership or a spouses in the appointment, you know what they usually mean when they say we need a minute to think about it? This is all that they want to do. I like her. Do you like her? Yeah, I think she's fine. Cool. But they're not going to do that with you in the room. They're just not. So excuse yourself. And that's why we say this at the beginning of the appointment. What do you guys think of this so far? Give me some feedback. You can use the chat box. Good. Awesome. So that's how you set the appointment. That is how you set the appointment. Now, and then you'll pick a time and you'll go through that process. Then when you start the appointment, let me give you an analogy from the Olympics. I think it was the 90s, but I don't know what year exactly. But the relay, the US was in a relay race at the US Olympics. I'm getting tongue-tied. The US was in a relay race at the Olympics. We were winning. And when they went to hand off the baton, it got dropped. And we lost. If it weren't for that baton drop, we would have won. And so I thought of that a lot, especially with those of you on teams. How many of you are on a team where you set appointments for other people? Okay, I see a couple of you. It's also true if you're setting your own appointments. There is a handoff that happens even with yourself from appointment set to appointment held, okay? And the thing that's going to marry it together and make it a strong handoff is the way I end the call is the same way I start the appointment. Okay, so let me demonstrate this for you. I walk in and I'm with John and we're in person and I'm about to start the appointment. And I walk in and say, hello, John, it's so great to actually meet you in person. Today, we're going to do 3 things. Number 1, we're going to go back over motivation and price. Number 2, we'll interview each other, make sure it's a good fit. Number 3, if everything looks good, we'll sign some paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? Awesome. Let's get started. And now we're starting that appointment. There's a lot more I want to say, and because of time, I'm moving quickly. However, know that the way you're wording this will also help you have a higher show ratio, not just signing ratio. Have you ever had an appointment, but you don't know what it's for? And you get anxiety about it a little bit because you're like, I'm supposed to meet so-and-so at such and such a time, but I don't totally know what the meeting's for. And those of us with that high D personality on disc, the driver, we don't like to waste time. We're just going to cancel that appointment because we don't even know what it's for. So that's another factor here. This won't just help you with signatures. It's going to help you with setting up why they're coming in and that's going to help them be more likely to actually show up. Okay. Now notice something in this, we're going to hit this on the next slide, and then I'll tell you where to get more training like this, and then we'll do questions. Notice it says we will sign paperwork to activate the next step. What do you guys think about that word activate the next step? Activate's pretty powerful. What I'm saying is there are things that only happen once you sign. It's slight, right? But I'm communicating signing is what activates the next thing. So let's say I'm talking to Leah and she says, do you have a contractor? I need to get some stuff done before I list the house. Absolutely, Leah. That's the kind of thing I provide once we agree to work together. We'll talk about that in the appointment. You know, Janine, hey, do you have a stager? Because I need help figuring out how to make my house look good. Janine, absolutely. That's actually part of what we provide once we agree to work together. I'll give you access to all of that stuff once we get the paperwork secured. Okay, so you have to hold some value back until they are a signed client. So that's another reason I have found agents struggle with signature is we're just giving too much away. And by the way, there's so many analogies we could make for life with this, right? But we're just going to keep it in real estate. But when you give value away for free, why would they commit to you? Like there's no point to, because why? You're already giving me everything I want. So why would I commit? And so that's part of the issue here. So what you're going to do with customer versus client is you got to think through what do customers get, which is the general public, and then what do clients get, which are people who signed with me. Now, you know, from getting your real estate license, there are some things by law everybody gets, right? But there are some things that only clients get. And so I want you to think through, what is that for you? And I put some phrasing on the screen that you can use. So you could say, once we agree to work together, then I'll provide that for you. That's exactly why we're getting together. Or you could say, absolutely, that's something we provide for all of our clients. Okay. And for me, and you can do this differently, this is, you got to decide for yourself, what do customers get and what do clients get? So this might be a brainstorm when we get off this call, just for yourself. But for me, one of the things I use for buyers, just to give you an example, maybe they say, hey, can you set me up on a search for this particular neighborhood? Okay. And what I'll do is, let's say I'm talking to Lacey. I might say, absolutely, let's do it. Lacey, what I'm going to do right now is set you up on a somewhat general search. So 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Taylor's. But once we get together, that's when we can actually really sweeten it and make it a lot more specific. So for now, it'll be kind of general. After we meet and get together, that's when I'm going to put down that you want brick, you want a pool, you want hardwood floors. I'm going to put down the square footage you want with the school district you want. And we'll do that once we actually get together. Now, could I do that now? Before she, absolutely I could. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to retain value. I have never one time, not one time ever, had a client have an issue with me saying, I'm going to be, you're kind of on a general search for now, but once you actually meet with me, that's when we can really sweeten it up. That's part of why we're getting together, actually. Not one time has anyone ever given me grief about that. Okay, sounds good. And now they're excited to meet with me because they don't want a list with 200 homes. They want a list with 15 that fit their criteria, right? So you just have to decide for yourself. I'm not saying that that's what you actually have to do. You might do it a little differently than me, but you want to make sure that you want to get very clear. What does a customer get and what does a client get? And they need to be different from each other. Okay. So how many of you feel like you could maybe have some more business because of what you learned today? Just even a couple more closings. Okay. You can probably tell I'm a little bit passionate. Just a little bit. It's because I know what it's like to not be doing well in sales. I was almost kicked off my first team for low sales performance about 20 years ago. And I also know the impact that skill can make. And honestly, getting my skill under control, so to speak, like really figuring out the skill of sales, has completely changed my life. And I'm not being over dramatic when I say that. My financial situation is different. The amount of hours that I work is different. Also, can we just acknowledge it's a lot more fun when you're good at what you're doing? So if you know what you're doing, it's fun. It's a lot more fun. So because of all that passion, I have a class called megaleadconversion.com. I partner with MAPS to teach it. It starts August 21st, which is very close. We have Mega Camp next week. And then Wednesday that we get back, Mega Lead Conversion begins. In that class, I teach you 19 patterns similar to what I taught you today. And it goes everything from how to open the call so they stay engaged. How many of you have people hang up on you and it's kind of annoying? Like a lot of people hanging up on you. We teach you, and Rodrigo, if you can please put the address in there. Watch the chat box for the website. But we teach you, how do you open the call so they don't want to hang up on you? We teach you, how do you handle it if they're like, oh, I'm busy, can you call me back? I don't mean to be cynical, but can we acknowledge they did pick up the phone? So are they really busy? Like, you kind of have to wonder. So we teach you how to navigate that. And we basically go from hello all the way through to signed agency agreement. So today you got a little peek of the signed agency agreement piece. And this was just a small portion of the bigger idea of how to get signed agency. That class again starts August 21st. What we're doing to help people, if I can be honest, it creates a lot of chaos when people sign up at the last second. So to motivate you to not sign up at the last second, were you to sign up by tomorrow night at midnight, use the code WEB15 and we'll give you a 15% off discount each month. It's a 6-month program, $199 a month without a discount. And you can have 2 people per registration. So if you're on a team and you want you and maybe another agent to take it together, but you have to be within the same team. Okay. It's $199 a month. We meet on Wednesdays, 3 Wednesdays a month. And it's an hour each time. And let me just show you real quick let me give you a little detail real fast. What you'll do if you go to megaleadconversion.com, you'll see this website right here. If you want to watch this video, I'm basically saying what it is, but there is a video with some more detail. Here is the launch date, all that good stuff, but I'll show you the best place to look, honestly. If you click on sign up, it has all the dates. It has the time. Everything is in here, okay? We do record it because a lot of times, what if you're out on an appointment or something like that? We record everything. So you can join us live or catch the on demand if your schedule conflicts in any way. That's totally fine. And again, the code is WEB15. So what you'll do, you'll go to sign up. You do not have to be Keller Williams. You can put no if you're not Keller Williams, or yes, depending. And then down here where it says coupon code WEB15, that's where you put that. And see, it takes about $30 off a month. Okay. So it's typically $199 a month. Take about $30 off for you, but you have to sign up by tomorrow night at midnight, WEB15. Okay. Basically, we teach you language patterns. I give you tracking systems, and we go over everything lead conversion related. And I love it. It's my favorite hour of the week is teaching that class. Okay. Commercial is over. What questions do you guys have? You can ask questions about the class. You could ask questions about today's content, and we've got about 2 minutes to speak up quickly if you do have a question.
Hey, Anna,
Yes.
do you plan on doing anything on the buy side?
What do you mean by your question?
Like today you spoke, I guess, more about like the listing side really.
Oh, no, that's 100% either side. So that what I just gave you, I use for buyers and sellers. So I may have given a seller example today, but you would totally use it on the buyer side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes. Now you were talking about going to your car for 10 minutes, give them a chance to think it over. Now, what if they respond to? How would you handle this? Well, we're kind of out of time. We've got an appointment to go to. How would you address
Yeah.
that?
To be honest, that doesn't usually happen, to be honest with you. If it were, and this is the kind of thing, like we do deep dives into this kind of stuff in the class. We go through all the various scenarios you could possibly run into throughout the 18 weeks. But what I'll say, John, is if that were to happen, which it rarely does, but if it were, I would say, great. Let's connect today before the day's over. And I would set a time to get on the phone with them before the day's over.
Okay.
But I'm telling you that rarely happens. I think where that could happen is if you don't set the appointment up right. So if I know my buyer appointment usually takes me 30 minutes to deliver, I should be telling them on the phone, our appointment will take about 45 minutes. And I'm baking in an extra 15. So if I've set it up correctly, I shouldn't be running out of time to run to my car for 10 minutes.
Okay.
You know, but really good question.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did I answer the question about the buyer thing? In my head, these patterns apply to everything, buyer, seller. In the class, I give you a buyer screening sheet and a seller screening sheet because you do ask them different questions when you're screening them. But the actual patterns apply because everybody's a human buyer or seller, right? So buyer, seller, a lot of the same patterns apply. People don't find that rude for you to go out to make a call. No. I've never had anyone act like that. A lot of this is mindset. If you feel like it's rude, you might set it up where they might think like, "Ooh, it's kind of weird what she's doing." If you just say, "Hey, I just want to give you a moment to think this over without me around so you can just have some space to think. I'm going to run out real quick and make a call just to give you some space, and I'll come back in like 10 minutes." Does that work? People feel cared for when you do that. And you can word it a few different ways. Like, "Hey, I know it can be nice to think through without me sitting here. So let me just step out for a few minutes. I'll give you a minute. I'm going to go enjoy the outdoors. You have got a great backyard. And I'll come back in like 5-10 minutes and see what other questions you might have." Sound good? Great. I've never had anyone treat me like they thought that was rude. Not once that I can remember. Yeah. What I used to do too, sometimes I would give them something to fill out and I would say, while you fill that out, I'm going to go print some stuff off. Like if you're in an office, you could do this. And then I'll come back in like 10 minutes and we'll wrap up. So whatever setting you're in, just find an excuse to step away. This is going to be the exception. Most of the time, you're not going to need to step away. I'm just giving that example. If they say, I'm the kind of person that needs to think this over, if you just give them a few minutes alone, they'll usually sign after that. But I don't think that's like every appointment do that, right? It's just if they say any form of, I need a minute. All right. So we are over time. I want to respect your time. We will send this recording to all of you. So if you want to re-listen to something, but remember, Mega Lead Conversion, it starts in less than 2 weeks, which I cannot believe August 21st is less than 2 weeks away. But to help us not have last minute chaos, do us a favor and sign up by tomorrow night, Friday, August 9th, midnight. And use the code WEB15 and then it will expire. So if you want that discount, you need to sign up by Friday, tomorrow night at midnight. WEB15 will give you a discount code each month of the 6 months.
Several people have asked for the customer versus client slide again. Is that possible to see?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for telling me. I thought I was watching the chat box, but I guess I wasn't. Here we go. Grab it real quick because we do need to end. I want to respect your time. But it's again that idea of don't give away too much too quickly. And then there's some phrasing at the bottom that you can use to build that. But here's the biggest thing I'll tell you. If you talk with confidence, that's going to be huge in just having them agree. If you speak about it like you feel bad, which that's a whole nother webinar, right? Is mindset. We could literally have a whole webinar on how you view yourself as a real estate agent. And that I get, if you thought I was passionate on this one, you just wait for that one. I get very passionate. You have a lot of value to offer. But we just don't have time to get deep into that today. Good. All right. I'm curious, will I see any of you August 21st? Anybody signing up? Awesome. Quite a few of you just raised your hand. Yay. I don't know. If any of you go to church, have you ever been in one of those churches where at the end they're like, anybody make a decision today? I just had that vibe when I said, will I see any of you in class August 21st? I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in church. All right, guys, I'll see. It sounds like quite a few of you August 21st. If you have any questions about the class, feel free to shoot me an email, Anna@sparkingprogress.com. But also check out the website first. That has a lot of detail. There's a video that explains everything. That'll probably take care of most of your questions. All right. Well, I'll see you soon. If you're at Mega Camp next week, please come find me somewhere. And let's get connected. I'll see you guys soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye, everyone.